The Philippines has been hit by another major storm. Typhoon Palma recorded winds of more than 210 kilometres an hour. It made landfall in a sparsely populated region north of the capital, but authorities say Palma could still cause major damage. It comes just days after the country was battered by a typhoon which left 300 dead. In the capital, Manila, 400,000 people remain in evacuation centres. ABC correspondent Mark Willacy reports.
This is a city street, and for millions of residents of the capital, this is the only way they can get around. After Typhoon Ketsana this week, 80% of Manila was underwater. The floodwaters were only beginning to recede. And now with the arrival of Typhoon Palma, it looks like the city could once again be submerged. Generating wind gusts of up to 230 kilometres an hour, Palma was classified as a super typhoon. Tens of thousands evacuated their homes as the storm approached the main island of Luzon. But at the last moment, Palma veered north. Philippines authorities believe the threat to life and property has eased.
Well, a short time ago, I asked Mark Willacy in Manila about the latest on Typhoon Palma.
It's just off the tip of Luzon, which is the northern island, the main island in the Philippines, and we're hearing reports that trees have already been uprooted. We're hearing reports that power lines, telephone lines are down, also that some roofs have been lifted off buildings, and also reports of some localised flooding. Authorities had told residents in Luzon, in the northern tip, to expect winds of about 175 kilometres an hour, and the typhoon is moving closer to the coast, and it does seem that those winds are starting to lash the tip of Luzon.
And Mark, how seriously is a threat from this typhoon being taken there?
Very seriously indeed, because we had a typhoon come through just last week. 80% of Manila was underwater and also 300 people lost their lives. So this time around it was very seriously taken by the authorities, and in fact tens of thousands of people were moved out of the path of Typhoon Palma. And we're hearing that the real issue that they're looking out for are floods and landslides. The ground is already soaked, so there is a big risk of flooding. Also, it's a rather mountainous area of the northern tip of this island. So they're the two issues that emergency services are really concerned about: landslides and serious flooding.
The situation of the flooding is extremely bad in northern Philippines, particularly in the province of Pangasinan and La Union. Practically all the towns there are practically inundated in water right now, and there's a rescue team of the Red Cross out there. We have 3 lifeboats. It's very puny compared to the magnitude of the disaster, and they have rescued about 500 people already since early this morning. The flood started because of the overflow of 3 dams. That is the San Roque, the Binga, and the Ambuclao Dam. Right now, the U.S. government, upon the request of the Red Cross and our government, have shifted from a humanitarian, from a military exercise to a humanitarian effort once again. And together with our military and Red Cross, we have 6 rubber boats and they have 2 speedboats. They're now heading towards Pangasinan, and hopefully they'll be there by early this afternoon, or very early this afternoon.
Mr. Gordon, it had been reported that some of the water was released from the dams, inundating some of the villages further downstream. Can you comment on that?
Yes. The dams had to release water because they were already over capacity, and so they had to discourage it earlier so that there would be less damage to the people. But nonetheless, it still caused severe damage because at its height, the water was running at about 3,000 plus cubic meters per second. Now it's down to about 2,438 cubic meters per second. But at its height, at about 2 o'clock early this morning, or about 12 o'clock early this morning, it was running at about 3,000 plus cubic meters per second. So you can imagine the kind of water that was coming down from the spillage of the 3 dams. So that's causing 30 of the 45 towns of Pangasinan to be underwater, some up to the rooftops, and also all the 19 towns of La Union to be underwater.
And I'd like to ask you, of the deaths and injuries reported, is this due to the flooding or to the landslides that have been caused by the excess water in the area?
The deaths have been caused principally yesterday by landslides in mining communities as well as landslides in adjoining towns. But we have not had any reported deaths so far confirmed because of the excessive water flows. But we are going to see death tolls here. I'm pretty sure we're going to see some a significant number of deaths, and there will be a tremendous amount of crop damage and property damage here. And this will exacerbate what is already happening in Manila and southern Luzon.
But for thousands, like single mother of 4, Gregoria Cruz, Typhoon Ketsana has already taken everything.
The water rose so fast, so we grabbed what we could, just a few clothes and a bucket, and ran. Then our house was gone.
Hundreds of men, women and children now call this shed home, sharing 2 toilets between them. But unlike 300 other victims of the typhoon, they count themselves lucky to be alive.